God, I'm so tired. So tired.
Hey, poor! Hey, poor! Hey, poor! You don't have to be poor anymore! Jesus is here!
The loudspeaker spoke up and said, Christianity is stupid.
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude, located not far from the Redneck Mecca. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts is busy battling buttons under a box. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cats. Get over it. And this is just going to be sort of a grab bag rambling episode. I'll apologize in advance. I'm doing this live. It's not going to get a lot of editing because I just don't have very much time right now. On the plus side, this gives you a break from the Apocrypha. Now, about the computer issues, it's nothing terribly serious. My video card is starting to go out, which is kind of annoying. This machine has two video cards, both identical, and apparently both have a lifespan of the warranty. Because the first one went out a couple of months ago, which was when that warranty ran out, and now this one's starting to go out. So I will have to order another one and then get the fucking time to put it in. I have another PC I can use to record if I have to. But a big issue is just getting the time to install the card after I've gotten enough sleep to be able to figure out what kind of card to get, because obviously I don't want to get the same kind again, since they don't last very long. So far, I'm not getting in as many hours at work as I have been, but because of how long I have been putting it overtime in and how many hours, it doesn't really feel like much of a relief. When you're putting in 12-hour days or near 12-hour days, 6 days a week, your last few hours on the job every day are like the last couple of miles in a marathon. You're just pushing yourself. And, you don't really have enough time off to recover from all that exertion. And, the job I have is not one that is easy. I mean, it's pretty physically demanding, and I'm a bit out of shape. So, it is definitely strenuous. And to compound matters, we've had a bunch of people quit, in the past couple of weeks. On my shift, there was, at the start of the month, there was 3 of us in the department, not counting the lead. I'm the only one left. The other 2 quit. On second shift, there were also 3 people, not counting the lead. One of them quit. Another one might be about to quit. He keeps calling out. And then last night, everybody on that shift called out. The 2 remaining guys. They had a temp, but he worked one day and never came back for whatever reason. And first shift is down one guy who got fired because he didn't bother to show up for work on overtime one time. And so that puts, a strain on all of us. And I still don't have any idea if I'm going to be able to make it to NanoCon or not. Usually they would have the schedule up by now, so I would have an idea, but they haven't put the new schedule up. I don't even know how many days I'm going to be working this week. And they need to tell us, because if they don't put anything up there, I'm not coming in on Friday. It'd be nice to have 2 days off for a change. So, but I don't know. And everybody at work in our department is tired and punchy all the time because we're so tired, because we just don't have time off to recover from this. And, we're putting in 10 to 12-hour days or more. Most jobs I've had never expected you to put in 12 hours with this kind of regularity that we're doing right now. So that's a bit novel. I've done it a few times in the past, and it was never a lot of fun. But I am getting some good money, so that's the important thing, right? I really hope we drop back down to a 4-day work week for a little while. Just not only because I could use the rest, but because the fucking house is a disaster. I mean, here's usually what happens is I'll come home from work having stopped off someplace to get something to eat because I just don't have the energy to cook anything, and even if I did, there's nothing in the house. Well, there is, but not really. Because I went shopping, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and some of the food I've had a chance to prepare, but most of it I haven't, and it's all started to expire. So, and then I sit down at my desk, get on the computer, kind of stare at things while I shovel food in my face and hope I don't fall asleep at my lunch. And then once that's done, I crawl into bed, go to sleep. Well, wake up however many hours later. If I wake up early enough, I will just lay in the bed and not do anything, because I still just don't want to get up and move. And then after laying there for an hour or more, I'll get up, get a shower, and stagger out someplace to get something to eat, and then go to work and stagger home and repeat it all over again. And then when I have a day off, I will quite often just sleep a lot of it, or do very little of anything, because I am so very, very tired. And this past week, I've gotten some bad news. I don't really know how to feel about it. My father is dying. Nobody in the family will admit that, but he's 87 years old and has some form of cancer. They haven't figured out what yet, but it's either lung cancer, lymphoma, or mesothelioma. They were supposed to be running tests. I haven't heard if they've gotten the results back yet or not. I don't particularly like my father for a variety of reasons. So, and I hadn't, my plan, was, since I haven't spoken to my father in almost a decade, was I would just, because, I knew sooner or later he was going to die, I would, my plan would be sell a trailer, move out of state, and then when it happened, I'm too poor to come back and deal with all this shit. I can't afford the plane fare or whatever. Well, that plan has gone out the window because there's no way in hell I'll be able to get get out of here before he passes. And right now, we don't know how long he's got. Though, again, nobody in the family is saying, well, yes, it's terminal. But all those cancers, that he potentially could have are fatal, or they for somebody his age can be fatal. Lymphoma, for example, is not necessarily fatal, but once you hit when you're in your late 80s, the odds are not in your favor. But again, nobody's talking about that. We're just waiting to see. We've got, we're hopeful. We really like his oncologist, blah, blah, blah. So we will see. Again, I haven't spoken to my father in almost a decade, because of various things that are too complicated to go into here. And I really, I do not know how to feel or how to deal with all this. I mean, part of it's just because I'm so tired I can't process the news very well, and part of it is just because, he and I no longer speak. So, and with the family not saying, well, he's dying, that's an issue. I mean, then, it shouldn't be a surprise to me, because they're all in denial about various things. And that's part of the reason why I no longer speak to him. It's because I would have a problem, and he would say, no, you don't know. This is not a problem. You're just making all this up. You don't know what you're talking about. Then he'd find out that, yes, what I was saying was absolutely true. And his response would be, well, you didn't tell me. He prefers to live in this little fantasy land, and I would rather live in reality, so that's why we don't talk. Give a rather depressing piece of news. I'll explain. But she's been in office for just over a year or so, mayor of Nashville has to resign. She was the first woman elected mayor in Nashville. She was rumored to be an atheist. She was a Democrat, so all those things were really, really promising. She had some good ideas for the city. And then it came out that she had an affair with her head of security. This was after the affair apparently started after her son died of a drug overdose. Her son was an opioid addict, like millions of Americans. And as part of the investigation into that, it turns out that, her chief of security, while he was chewing on her, was billing the city for overtime hours. So, she got convicted today. Well, she pled guilty today, committing a felony, which was, theft, because she's had to sign off on all these overtime. And she resigned. So, and I know nothing about who the deputy mayor is who's replacing her, or the vice mayor. I don't know what his actual title was. But that's depressing. And it's most likely the Koch brothers who brought her down. She had what she was doing when the scandal broke of her having the affair was she was pushing for a new mass transit system for Nashville. $1.5 billion mass transit system for Nashville. Now, the Koch brothers, for whatever reason, hate mass transit. Absolutely hate it. And they have been mucking about in Nashville for years now, pushing against mass transit in the city. I mean, we have some, but they've prevented doing other things with it for, again, reasons I don't know. But they've blocked. What it is the city cannot determine what it wants to do for mass transit. In a lot of ways, it has to all go through the state. Why that is, I don't know. I mean, what their logic behind that is, I don't know. Other than, it benefits the Koch brothers, so that's the way they do it. And so, Mayor Barry had her initiative, and she was going to be doing a big press conference, and she did do that. But, they had this announcement about, on this date, she's going to have a public meeting and discuss all this stuff. And when she made the announcement that they were going to have that public meeting, apparently the Koch brothers sent in a bunch of people to start poking around in the city and trying to find dirt on the mayor. And they did. And so now she's out, and probably her mass transit proposal is dead. And, speaking from experience, Nashville's mass transit system does need a lot of improvement. When I was riding the bus from here to Nashville, it was an hour on the bus to get to Nashville, and then another hour for me to get from the bus station to where I worked. Same thing on the way home. And there were limited times of day when you could take the bus. So if I stayed too late at work, or my connecting bus to the bus station was late, I was screwed, because I had no way to get to Gallatin from Nashville, because the last bus would leave Nashville at like 6:30, I think, or somewhere around there. 6. Doesn't matter. Anyways, once that was, that left, I had no way to get home. I could get to a shopping mall 10 miles, over 10 miles away, but whatever. Too far for me to walk at any rate. It would be a 6-hour walk. I could get there, but then I wouldn't be able to get home. Unfortunately, the times that this happened to me, I was able to call a friend and say, "Can you meet me here?" And then I wouldn't get home till like 8 or 9 that night, because of how long it would take for me to get to the shopping mall, and then if I had to wait on my friend to come and get me. So given that the new mayor is, taking office in the wake of a scandal, he's probably not going to be very effective. And one would hope that when the election for mayor rolls around, which I think will be in 2020, I could be wrong, he doesn't run, and they get somebody else in there to run for mayor rather than him, just so that it clears the air. It's a shame that, we lost our first female mayor to a scandal, and that she was a Democrat at a time when we need as many Democrats in office as we can have. But, what can you do? Oh. one thing I will say that I found fairly interesting was the reaction of people at work. We have a big TV in the break room, and the local nightly news is on before I start work. One night the news was talking about the scandal, and everybody was like, "This is no one's business. If she didn't break the law, nobody should care about this, and the only reason they're making a big deal out of it is because she's a woman." So that I found that rather surprising, me living in Trump country. But then again, it is a union company, so it's probably a little more liberal than the rest of the city. Okay, let's shift to a little happier topic here before I have to get on out of here, because I've got to go to work. Got to stop and get something to eat on my way in, and so with all this overtime, I am very close to getting my back rent paid off. I have knocked down the total to half of what it was, and I have also managed to set aside a little for a car. My goal is I'm going to aim for like $1,000 car, one that I can just pay cash for up front, and I want to have another $1,000 in reserve, because any car you buy at that price is going to have problems. So I will have the money set aside to get it up and running the way it should, and then by that point I will hopefully have figured out how the work schedule is going to go, and I'm going to see about going back to school and getting some additional certifications. I think what I may do, because granted, I'm partway there on a bunch of different things as far as education goes, but the one thing I think I would probably do is, since I know I can take night courses for this, which would work better for me than taking day courses, is the local trade school has a program that's designed to teach people how to be a maintenance man. And since I've been a machinist, I have some of the skill set already, so I could do that and then shift to a job at the company I work at in a different position, one that's not quite as strenuous, without taking a pay cut, or actually I'd get a pay raise. So that is my plan. How well I'll be able to accomplish that, I don't know. Of course, I can't do any of that until I get a car. And also another thing I have to do when I get a car is rebuild the deck roof. I have most of the materials. Don't have all of them. Can't get them here because I don't have a car, and I need to get time. Okay, well, I need to get out of here, and Buttons is curled up in my arms demanding tummy rubs, which is going to make it hard for me to edit this thing and get it out in time, and I've got to do that. So I'm going to sign off now. I apologize for the shortness. I'll put out a bonus episode sometime this month to make up for it. And next episode will be an Apocrypha episode, and I'll get back to the news episodes when I get a break from work. And hopefully next episode I will know whether or not I can go to NanoCon and how things are looking for the rest of the month. So thanks for listening, everybody, and again, thanks to everybody who's supported the show via Patreon. That really, really helps.
That's it for this episode of The Atheist in the Trailer Park Podcast. You can subscribe to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, as well as just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. Many of the episodes are also on YouTube. Follow the show on Twitter. @TParkAtheist is the show's Twitter handle. It's on Facebook at facebook.com/trailerparkatheist.com. If you happen to like the podcast, please rate it on iTunes. If you'd like to support the podcast, there's a donate button on the show notes page. You can support it via Patreon at patreon.com/TN Tucker. Thanks for listening.
Say goodnight, Fuzz-Nuts.
All I know is this violates every canon of respectable broadcasting.
Damned cat.